Thanks for tuning in to As the Tire Turns podcast. Before we dive into this week's episode, I'd like to thank our sponsor, AME International. Tire professionals insist on AME. I'd also like to recognize the AACF. For over 65 years, the Automotive Aftermarket Charitable Foundation has stood by those in the automotive aftermarket industry and their families during life's toughest challenges. Since 1959, with the incredible support of industry partners, AACF has provided vital assistance to individuals and families facing financial hardship due to unforeseen circumstances, such as floods, earthquakes, storms, fires, catastrophic medical conditions, life-changing accidents, devastating fatalities, and more. AACF offers a straightforward application process and a quick turnaround time for those needing support during critical moments. Visit www.aftermarketcharity.org to access the application and learn more about how AACF can assist during times of need. Together, we can make a difference in the lives of our automotive aftermarket family. Support AACF today. And now, As the Tire Turns. Final interview of As the Tire Turns. So when I started this out, I wanted to document my time as going through the presidency and now past president of the Tire Industry Association. And I did a little bit of that, but this project evolved a little bit, and it's been a fun project for me. I would encourage people to step out of their comfort zone a little bit, which I certainly did, and just talk to people. There's some people that I interviewed who I've been close friends with for really my entire time in the industry, more than 30 years, and yet every single episode I learned something. So, and sometimes some wild things. Probably Dick Gust and his connection to Satchel Paige. I won't spoil it if you haven't seen that episode. But anyway, I just want to thank everybody who's commented or made notes and reached out to me. Thank all the guests, obviously. Thank Lakeisha, even though this wasn't necessarily an official TIA function. She helped me a couple different times set up places to take our little rolling road show. Lakeisha Pindell with Tire Industry Association. Obviously, my family has been big supporters of this, and anyone who has filmed or been there for a filming knows how much my daughter Riley is behind the scenes. So right here now, Riley, I don't know, can you just pop up? And I know this is impromptu. Just there's a jazz fingers, I think they call that, or something. Anyway, you think you have an idea what people do, but until you kind of really, be a fly on the wall and see how much is done for just sound, location, trying to make this person look halfway presentable on film. I guess not film anymore, but anyway, you get the point. So anyway, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I've loved every minute of it. So for my last interview, I had the pleasure of sitting down with Corky Coker at his Coker Museum in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And his family's been in that area for a long time, storied history in the tire industry and the automotive industry. And he threw me a curve, because one of the things I wanted to chat about was his mustache. Kind of iconic, I think. And when I walked in, I'd never spoken with Corky. I'd met him a few times. Or seen him at trade shows, but never actually had a conversation with him. And so when I walked in and saw him, he was sporting a goatee. And I'm not going to spoil the reason. I'll let you get into the episode. But I decided to do that as well today, filming this for that same purpose. So without further ado, it's been fantastic, and that was this episode, we'll say, for Cameron. So. Thanks. We're back with another episode of As the Tire Turns podcast. Today I have the pleasure of being joined with Corky Coker. here at the Coker Museum, adjacent to Honest Charlie's Speed Shop.
Yep.
Which is adjacent to Coker Tire. So
That's
we're
right.
in downtown Chattanooga.
Yeah, right here in the buckle of the Bible Belt.
There you go.
Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Well, we'll talk a little bit about that too, because in just the setup. And you and I started in 1993, and the whole reason for this podcast was I've been in the industry my whole life, but I've served on the board of directors for the Tire Industry Association, and was voted secretary, which then puts you in line to serve as president, which I did last year, and past presidents all kind of, told me it's only a year. Don't be too ambitious, right?
Bull.
Yeah.
They lie.
Yeah. but they also said it's going to go by quick, which it did. And so I said, let me maybe do a podcast, try and capture some moments in time of people who either influenced me or had an influence on the industry.
Sure.
And so I'd love to say that you've influenced me, but we really just met, right? Now, and I know I would have seen you at some of those earlier shows. My first show was the 1993 ARA, the American Retreaders Association, or the Louisville show, was affectionately called.
That's right.
And then I hit the NTDRA shows, and then, of course, SEMA later on. And I know you have served, that's probably why you say bull, right? Because you have served on the board for SEMA as president or chair.
I served on the board for 22 years, and then I was chairman for I was chair-elect for 2 years, chairman for 2 years, and then immediate past chair for 2 years. So,
okay.
They at SEMA, we have a system to keep you logged in. And, just to point about that, Keith, it's really important that because, when the folks said, hey, you understand full well you've got 2 ears and one mouth in meetings, I'm impressed because when you do speak, people listen to you.
Yeah.
So we want you to run for chair-elect. Well, they said it will take up about 10 or 20% of your time.
Yeah.
That's bull. I've apportioned about 50% of my time, but it took, be the chair of SEMA, it took 75% of my time.
Really?
Yeah. But, anything that we do, folks like you and I, we're going to do it to the best of our ability.
Absolutely.
We're not ever going to be able to back up to, taking the job. And that's why we've made successful businesses, because we do everything to the best of our ability.
All in.
My grandfather once told me, Keith, he said, if you do what you love, number one, you'll never have to work a day in your life. And then secondly, if you do it to the best of your ability, people will flock to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's true too.
Well, and you already hit on some of the, in my brief notes here, some of the items we're going to talk about. But first and foremost, when I initially reached out and said, and part of this is because I don't know if Chattanooga is the best kept secret or not, but right, I live in just north of Tampa, and so on road trips, right, tend to hit up 75 and then eventually branch off.
Good place for a pee stop.
Well, yeah, exactly. But you've got Atlanta, right, and then you got Nashville's a little too far, and this is kind of right nestled in between. And honestly, I associate it with the mountains, right, and the traffic that you always seem to have no matter what time of day coming through. But downtown area, I've got a gentleman who works in the mines locally who I went to school with, and I caught up with him for dinner a few years ago. We stayed downtown, and my wife and I fell in love. And literally, I pulled out of the hotel one time, and I see Coker Museum, right? And I think, well, there's a guy in the industry named Coker, right? And I said, I wonder if it's related. And I realized, well, heck, Coker Tire's here.
Right.
And so I thought, in the podcast, getting back to that, I thought, this guy's got a museum. Like, I mean, he's going to have tons of stories to tell, which you do, and we'll get into the YouTube. But anyway, so I started thinking about, because a lot of the people that I've interviewed, I've known, and I got a lot of it right up here that we could just talk about. And I thought, well, I think Corky Coker, I think of the iconic mustache, right? And I'm not saying it's up there, maybe Tom Selleck or whatever, but in the industry, right, I think of maybe you.
Sam Elliott. Sam Elliott. He's the one that's got the cowboy mustache, and, he talks real low like this,
Well, but I looked on some of the more recent episodes, and I'm like, this was posted a month or two ago. He's going to goatee. I was like, I had a whole section on mustache. I put a little, now I was going to ask if you felt partially responsible because, facial hair, like I think of like the New York Yankees, you weren't allowed.
Oh yeah, but now they all got,
the beards,
braid their beards and such. Yeah, I don't get that, but,
But there's there's subscription services on beard balms and the whole thing, and it is a kind of a movement or a culture or so on. But yeah, because you did have that not quite Fu Manchu, I guess. I don't know what you call it.
It's just a cowboy mustache. It kind of hangs over, so you can taste breakfast a little bit longer, and if you want to say something under your breath, it might, the hair might move, but I've always had a mustache ever since I was able to grow one. In fact, I'll share with you, when I was 15, I was able to start growing a mustache. But as you're 15 and you get closer to 20, et cetera, all your hormones are in there full-fledged then.
Yeah.
And then, it turns dark and gets, and then you start shaving it. But I wanted a mustache so bad, I had, light hair coming out. I put mascara on it when I was first able to grow one. Until I was able to grow one, now it just kind of took over.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you about my goatee and why I decided to do a goatee.
Yeah.
I had one a couple years ago. We did a race, a pre-1914 and 15 race cars at Laguna Seca, and we were to be in period attire for the race car drivers in 1914. And I determined that, my mustache looked good, but I was just going to grow a goatee. And I did, and I enjoyed it. And I cut it off about this time of the year. So my son Cameron always had a beard, similar to yours.
Okay.
And I lost him in a car wreck about 4.5 years ago. He had a massive wreck, a car that we had built, and lost control of it, hit a tree, and passed away. He had a three-month-old baby boy.
Wow.
And I miss him dearly. It's a hole in my heart that will never heal. So a tribute to him, a couple times twice in the last 5, 6, 10 years, I've grown a goatee. It's about time to get it off. I don't mind the mustache, but it just gets a little unruly.
Yeah.
But I miss my son.
Yeah.
And tribute to him.
Yeah, no, I love it.
That's what it is.
And I'm glad you brought that up. I had a quick tour prior, and I saw the Scout.
Yeah.
That you have in here, which was his vehicle, and you have a sign there, and I didn't realize, and the young man who would.
Let me tell you about that. You come into a car museum like this, and you're drawn to. You see a Duesenberg over here, you see an Asada Franschini, you see a big brass car here. Your immediate thought is, God, there's a lot of money in here. And we have 100 people a day come in this museum, and I love walking through, and people say, "Oh, there he is, there he is." I've done television, I've been on a speaking circuit, and I've done many things, so a lot of people recognize me. But I get to come in here and love on people. Vintage car people that bought my tires, are the best people in the world. And so often they ask me when they walk in this room, what's the most important thing? What's the most valuable thing in here? I'll walk right by this big Thomas Flyer that was my dad's favorite car, and I walk to this 1976 Spirit of 76 International Scout. That was my son Cameron's. And on the windshield is a picture of Cameron and I standing in front of the Grand Tetons on a trip we took that I remember every detail to this day. And I say, see that young man right there? That's my son. And I lost him in a tragic wreck. And, I would trade everything in this room if he would come back to me.
Yeah.
But let me tell you something. He knew Jesus.
Yeah.
And he's in heaven right now sitting at the feet of Jesus.
Yeah.
And he would no more come back than I'm a man in the moon. So my cars are safe.
Yeah.
So you might think, I tell these folks, you might think that it's about my son Cameron.
Yeah.
It's about God's son Jesus.
Yeah.
Because, I know him too, and I'll get to see my son soon.
Yeah.
but not yet.
Yeah. No, I love it. It's funny.
But not yet.
I would never want to be accused of being prepared. Everybody thinks, Keith, you just show up for these. But I did do a tiny amount of prep work, in part because, to your point, you've done more than these than you can count, right? You know, whether it be videos, speaking, lectures, you know, whatever, and so on. And so I thought, I got to make it a little bit interesting, right? You know, I don't want to ask you the same stuff people have been asking you for forever. And so, but I think it might have been your SEMA Hall of Fame induction.
Yeah, right.
You mentioned that I think it was your grandmother and that she had passed, and something along the lines of like she'd pray for you, pray for you, pray for you. And so he said, "What are you gonna do now?" Because she's not praying for you anymore. She's whispering in his ear or something along those lines.
Isn't that cool? But it's true. It's true.
That's very true.
It's true. You know, your mama and your daddy, and you know they affect your raising. And they teach us things that make us successful in business. And, you know, I was introduced to the Word of God, and that is my mentor.
Yeah.
You know, my divine mentor. It's God's Word. It's inerrant. And so, you know, the prayers of my mama and my grandmother, my dad, and my raising, my grandfather went through the 3rd grade, but he's one of the wisest men I ever knew.
Yeah.
And I learned so many things from him, from his ability to be around the farm, hold a hammer solid, and how to plow straight. All those things are just amazing, but they make us successful.
Absolutely.
They create
who you are.
The dynamic that, you know, we understand that life is really not all about us.
Yeah.
And, you know, we can share that in business. We can share that with our customers. And, you know, when they realize that you're interested in me,
right?
Yeah, you want to solve my problem? Well, you can tell them that, Mr. Tire Dealer.
Right.
You can tell them that, hey, I know you got a problem. I hate it when that stuff happens to me. I'm so sorry. We're going to fix it.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to fix it.
They can relate.
And, yeah. Those things are important.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but...
So just staying on the path, because one question I've asked everybody, and you were kind of born into it, but how did you get into the car business? But also, are you a car guy who got into the tire business, or a tire guy that found a passion for cars? I suspect
that's an interesting question. I never had it framed in that perspective, but you know, my parents raised my brother and sister and I. I'm the oldest. I've got a sister, Christy, that 2 years younger, and a brother, David, who was also in the industry. My sister was never, but my brother, David, had a little wheel business called Rocket Wheel, and he grew up in the tire business. So we grew up in the back seat of a 1910 Rio doing car tours. But my dad founded Coker Tire Company in 1958. So, you know, most people say, so you were raised in the old car hobby and the tire business. Well, actually, my dad didn't have a lot of patience. He didn't raise me. He jerked me up.
Yeah.
He said, you're going to do it this way, and I do what I say, get a life so you can be happy.
Yeah.
And so I was jerked up in the tire business and the collector car hobby. But, you know, I guess at the same time, because I remember being 10 years old, going to car shows, and I have pictures of me scrubbing the blue off of a 670 15 2.5-inch white wall.
Yeah.
When they were new from the factory.
Yeah.
So, I'll tell you another reason why I am who I am. My mom named me Joseph. That's my real name, Joseph Coker. She said, he's going to be productive. The Lord told me he's going to be productive. So that's what the name means in Hebrew, productive. My dad said, okay, you can name him whatever you want to, but we're going to call him Corky. And you know where that name came from?
No.
It came from the Sunday morning comic strip, Gasoline Alley.
Oh.
The guy with the mule in the cart picking up junk everywhere and selling the junk. And, you know, so I ended up with a whole room full of scrap iron.
Yeah.
You can see it right here.
That you have, yeah. So, some of it, in you know, probably as good as it looked coming off of a showroom floor, maybe better with the wax. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting.
I will tell you that I think collector car people are some of the finest people in the world. And the tire business has been really good to me.
Yeah.
You know, I am so thankful to have been jerked up in it, and, you know, I got to show my own entrepreneurial spirit. My father was president of NTDRA a number of years ago. He's also president of the AACA, which is the Antique Car Club of America. So I had a great, you know, leader to show me the way. But the tire business, you know, my father had a retail tire store, but he was a collector car guy. So everybody started coming to him. So he started our vintage division.
Sure.
And he had tires made down in South America, et cetera. Well, when I went to college, I thought I was going to be a veterinarian. I grew up on a farm, thought I was going to be a veterinarian. And, you know, at the time, the state of Tennessee didn't have a veterinary school, so you had a limited number of people that could make the cut and go to Auburn. Well, it was harder to get in veterinary school than it was medical school at the time. So I was not quite that student. So my dad says, you get your butt back here to Chattanooga. I'm tired of you making all B's in college. And you might think, well, what are those B's? What does that mean? Is that the letter grade you made? No, I focused on beer,
yeah,
banjos, and babes.
Yeah.
So he said, you come home and I want you to take our antique division and make it grow. So my dad never believed it would grow so big as it did. And,
yeah.
You know, I have to say that he gave me charges, and he also gave me discharges, which
yeah.
charged me even more.
Yeah.
He said, you can't do that, or I don't believe you'll ever do that. Watch this.
Yeah, motivation.
Yeah, that's right.
So, and he started, he left B.F. Goodrich,
yes.
I guess, right, and started Coker Tire.
Yes.
Exclusively for...
Nope, he was a normal retail tire service dealer. Actually, and when he started in 1958, he retreaded tires. I've got a picture on my desk of my dad, skinny as a rail, smoking Sweet Lucky Strikes,
yeah.
and taking a retread out of the mold, a tire that he sold for $8.67.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It is.
And he made a living, started in Athens, Tennessee, next door to a Pinky List B.F. Goodrich store. Well, he made so much headache for Pinky List in Athens, Tennessee, that the B.F. Goodrich guys heard about it, and they offered my father Chattanooga for B.F. Goodrich tires, and moved here, and you know, the rest is history.
Okay, and then the becoming synonymous with historic or antique car,
collector car tires.
Yeah, collector car tires.
So my father started finding, you know, production in different places in the world, and he got it started. I came back from college in 1974, and I focused my time on it. Worked in a retail store. We had a retail store on Brainerd Road here in Chattanooga. We developed into about 4 stores around the Chattanooga area, and that's a lot of work for small percentage profit often.
Right.
But it's, you know, the interesting dichotomy I have related looking back, the difference in a customer that walks in your store and needs a set of tires for their household minivan,
yeah.
They're not real happy that they're having to spend the money on a set of tires. It's like going to the dentist to get your teeth pulled. Now, a guy that walks in that's got like a 1959 Jaguar XK150S, oh boy, you're going to charge me $1,000 for 4 tires, and I get to put them on here, so I get to go play with my toys.
Exactly.
They're happy.
Yeah.
So I've been blessed in that regard, because my dad said, here, make this go, and he said, there's one show you need to go to. You'll always have a display at the NTDRA show. Or he didn't even know about SEMA. He never been there, didn't have a clue. But you go to one swap meet a year, and that's up in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Amazing, 150,000 people show up, 28 miles of rows of people selling stuff. You need to do that one. Well, that was one time my father said something to me that I just didn't believe, and I thought he was wrong. So I started out, and I'd sleep in the back of a truck, and I'd display at swap meets all over the nation, and was on the road constantly doing that. So you got to stand in front of people. You got to shake their hand. You got to say, I can take care of that.
Yeah.
So, and I learned. The customers told me what they needed. I'm not that bright. I'm just a dumb country boy. But when they say, have you ever thought about doing tires for a 1929 Duesenberg J? Well, I'll look into it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, right? There's probably a lesson buried there, right? Sometimes you get these guys just going volume, and, smaller market, right? You find that niche.
Smaller market, I went at smaller market. That's where my grandfather's words came true. If you specialize and find a niche market, and own it, you'll never have to work very hard. Because they'll flock to you.
Yeah.
It's true.
So staying on the topic of your father, people will sometimes try and pull you into political discussions, and we're in Tennessee. I think Dolly Parton's always done a good job saying, I'm an entertainer. I don't talk politics, right? And I've almost become apolitical. But the one thing you'll hear me mention, I say, there's a lot of smart people that get elected. And part of the reason I feel like, and I'm probably dipping where I shouldn't go, but that's okay. But
not my first rodeo. I've been posed some of those questions before.
Well, I was going to say part of the reason I think is I don't care, and we're probably divided at any time throughout history, but it seems like now. But I said no matter how divided we are, you can get 80% of the electorate, and they'll agree on one thing, and that is congressional term limits. And so, again, I don't ever want to be accused of doing too much research for these podcasts. But
you researched my father out correctly then.
Well, I saw it, and I saw he was a chair. I have to write it down because it was Coalition to End Permanent Congress.
Yeah.
And he was a co-chair for that. I think he ran for
U.S. Congress.
For U.S. Congress
against a 26-year incumbent, which is unheard of. Most advisors would say you ain't going to win.
Yeah, correct. Yeah,
because it's a permanent Congress. They can raise the money. They've got power, and nowadays the national media will support usually always the incumbent over a challenger. So there's a lot of reasons to do things. The thing that I will say about my father is he believed wholeheartedly in everything he did politically. He was real involved in the Republican Party, and I have been as well. I've run many campaigns. I actually finished his campaign. They fired the campaign manager, and I came in and went on leave for the company and finished it for the last 5 months. I did learn that if you do a good scientific poll, it will tell you exactly where you are going to be and what you are right now. And we didn't pay attention to that. Yeah. And we lost by exactly the amount that we forecasted by a poll that we do. What I would say about politics today, if you're in business, it's smart. Dolly's smart. More than just being a beautiful lady and have a voice like an angel.
Yeah.
She is smart. And she steers away from separating people. The folks that live in the Beltway, they both separate people.
Absolutely.
And they're more divided now than any ever. And, I disagree with that.
Yeah.
I think that if I ever, honey, if you're watching, please don't think that I'm going to. But if I ever ran for office, I would find what things we had in common. Always, including the electorate, and that's what we need to do. We can disagree on how to get there, but there's hate speech, and there's congressional leaders right now that say bad words all the time, which I'm aghast about.
Yeah,
I've said them and I know them, but why do that publicly? It's just dishonorable.
Well, it's interesting because now we had a very short chat just as we were getting the camera set up, and we'll bring it back to cars here. But it's interesting. I had a similar conversation in a microbrew setting that's local, where actually a guy took an old automotive shop, kept the pits in. Right, they store some barrels of beer and stuff like that downstairs, and trying to do a tasting room, and there were issues with the county code and stairs and stuff like that. But nonetheless, and I just looked around because I said, it's interesting. You talk about bringing people together. It's probably a heck of a lot more than what we're led to believe, the commonalities that we have, because, I said, if you look at this, and there might have been, 300-400 people in this kind of outdoor grotto and setting at this microbrew, and I said, everybody's just here having a good time, enjoying either music or chat and striking up conversations with strangers. But not to make social media the evil, right? But once you begin to pour people in buckets and put labels and so on, right? And it really does cause division. It also maybe groups you to some degree, but with people have similar interests. But I've always believed, you don't grow from, you don't want to be in an echo chamber, right?
No, that's right.
You don't want to, So
the thing that I said a little earlier in our conversation is, I learned that it's not all about me.
Yeah.
And that's what those that are in elected office, suffer from. They believe because I've been elected and I'm, important, I want what I want. And if you don't serve me, then, I will not give you access, and, I'll put you over in this bucket over here.
Yeah.
That's a problem in our society today. I think, I will say one thing that I think is really tragic about our society, and it comes out all the time, is there are not enough fathers in the home.
Yeah.
And, I don't care if they're white, black, yellow, brown, or, Republican or Democrat. Daddies need to be daddies.
Yeah.
And a young son needs their daddy and, their mama to love them and direct their path.
Yeah.
And then they can come up and be the best tire dealer in the world, or the best, banjo picker in the world, whatever.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. The guy who married my wife and I, we met at the wedding. I'd been in a church and the pastor was retiring, and I said, you're going to still marry Kelly? And I said, nah, once you kind of give up the role, right, because they'd make a small donation or whatever. Sure. And so on. But nonetheless, so literally we met him maybe the week before, and he sat down with us, told us a couple of things. But he says, people say marriage is 50-50, but he says it's not 50-50. He says it's 100-100. Like, you've both got to put in 100%. And I think parenting, same thing. Not that there's not some single parent homes that have done amazing, right? But I think it's so difficult. The odds are so much better when you've got, two loving parents, right?
That's right.
That can absolutely, because sometimes one of those parents needs a break, right? And so, and I traveled a bunch. I don't think I traveled ever as much as you did. I would do maybe 100 nights, right? Sometimes I think you said we'd do 100 shows, right?
Events.
Events.
Week long.
Yeah. So, but, we still balanced, and I wasn't always the disciplinarian. I said, you can't wait till your father comes home, because I don't want him to associate me with being the bad guy, right? So I think we both took that role serious.
I probably disagree just a little bit about the 100. Men are called to serve.
Yeah.
A good man wants to serve.
Yeah.
And that is including their wife.
Yeah.
And the best description of a husband and wife team is Jesus in the church. He served the church. He served so much really, he died for the church.
Sure.
A husband and a wife, a husband is required to metaphorically die for his bride.
Yeah.
And that can be translated to business. And, I need to let my customer know it's not all about me. Yeah, I'm going to make a profit, but that's sideline. I want to make sure fulfilled. You got exactly what you wanted. You had enjoyed it. There's joy. It gave you peace that the product is going to be perfect. And so I translate, my faith into about everything I do.
Yeah.
And obviously you can tell by turning it back around to there, but it's those are important things that I think give me peace. And when I have peace, I have confidence. And when I have confidence, I know I can tackle the world.
Sure.
Ain't nothing I can't do.
Sure. I think we have similar philosophies, because I would tell people years ago, and I don't know that with the gray hairs I can pass, but I'd say I'm young. I'm going to be in this industry a long time. Like I'm not worried about the transaction. I want to take care of you, take care of the customer. And I read an article, and I mean decades ago, in a trade journal. And I used to read it every month, and at some point in time I lost, and I've tried Googling it because I can almost remember, but it really built a philosophy, and it was talking about what to like an appliance company or a grocery store, an automobile, what that lifetime customer was worth, right? And it's not always about the right and wrong, and just take care of the customer. And sometimes you do have to fire a customer, right? If they become
sometimes
abusive.
You do, and that hurts. But
yeah,
sometimes they're just knuckleheads.
Yeah,
you need to, thank you for coming. If you don't mind, go down the street and talk to Shorty.
Yeah.
He sells them cheaper, and they are.
Yeah, exactly. So I think now you'd be considered, I guess, second generation, right, in the business, and then you've got, I know, your daughter involved in the business.
Yes.
That'd be third generation, right? And so
yes, and she's got twin boys that are going to be 15 any day now. So, when you leave for college, you basically are gone. So, they could come around, and who knows? I might be back in the tire business. So watch out, watch out. But I'm not gonna make it on just selling more tires. I'm gonna do all of these things that make for a successful business.
Well, so that's it. So if you could, in building the speed shop, the online persona and personality and so on, and I don't know if you ever get accused of being just a kid in a grown-up's body, right? But
I do.
But what a great way to live life, right? And but you can't do that, right, without whether you attribute it to culture, maybe it's your faith, right? But you can't do that without having great people around you. And
that's right. And
even some people, work in the family business, but they don't necessarily love it and have the passion. And I'm very fortunate, I've had my kids involved in my business as well. And
that's awesome.
But so is there any single one thing that you say about, building these various businesses or organizations that allows you to kind of just look like you have there's work. I know there's work behind it, and there's some days where you probably just
Well, I think one thing you can do is work about half the time. And they're 24 hours a day. That's 12 hours a day that you can work and make it successful.
Yeah.
I also believe that if you enjoy yourself, people know.
Yeah.
And if you're passionate about something and you're charismatically passionate about it, then they get it and they get you.
Yeah.
And they want to do business with you. And, another important thing I had at one time, I had about 40 salesmen that were receiving phone calls from toll-free numbers, et cetera. And we ran ads. We had, probably 30 different toll numbers, and we would run an ad and put that different toll number. So we knew which ad worked.
Yeah.
They say advertising works, half of it works. The only problem is you don't know which half.
Correct.
But so we tried our best to figure that out. But if you can convey that either on the telephone or directly in person and be in front of them, then do it over and over again, you get lucky, which I don't believe in that word, luck.
Yeah, hard work.
You get lucky,
Yeah.
and business happens.
Well, I was entered the business world, if you will, in 1993. You were going to be a vet. I was going to be a physical therapist, right? And just kind of got pulled in or into the business, in the industry. But I was taught early on, right? You can hear a smile on a phone, right? And
sure.
You think, well, it doesn't make any noise. How can you hear it? But you genuinely can. And whether it be calling an airline or something, right? Even if you just sometimes ask, how's your day going? Right? You can just tell.
Absolutely.
I mean, little simple things that
Absolutely.
make a difference and so on. So we're going to get back to cars. We talked a little bit about social media and electric vehicles are I don't know if they're all the rage or right. They certainly have some cool stuff that you're like, wow, that's never thought, right? You'd be running a vehicle.
1,000 horsepower, immediate 0 to 70 in 1.8 seconds or whatever. It's just unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. But I know right to repair, right, has always been a thing for the automotive industry, for SEMA, for even us tire industry.
Yep.
Certainly the vehicles that you see all in here, right? Somebody can turn a wrench and get in and, even make some adjustments, right? And things like that. Do you have a thought or with respect to, because to your point, you were saying, and I was saying, 16th birthday, I got my driver's license.
Yep,
I got hired at my first job.
Yep.
I mean, it was a banner day. Being able to drive.
Around the Coker family, when I was a teenager, my dad did let me get my driver's license the day I turned 16.
Yep.
And, I was able to get a car. I think the first car that I drove when I was 16 was a 65 Mustang, high-performance 4-speed car, and it would fly. But I was like the cobbler's son. I ran barefoot all the time.
Yeah.
I either got retreads or got old used tires off the tire rack, and I just went and, got them myself and said, ooh, those would run on my front of my car. But my dad wouldn't let me go up and get a brand new set of when I turned 16, there was only bi-supply tires.
Yeah.
A set of Goodrich Silvertown, whatever, and put on that car. I just got what I got. But I can say the automotive industry is probably one of the most important industries in America. It started our industrial revolution in the early 1900s. Automobiles, mass production, Henry Ford, those were farmers that had a desire and dreamed and came up with solutions out of their garage or out of their basement. They put like SEMA, all the guys that founded, like Vic Edelbrock Sr., he needed something to make it go faster. Corky Coker and his father, Harold Coker, needed tires for an Austin Healey 3000. And there wasn't anything available because the major manufacturers were getting new sizes every year, and they'd cast all that stuff aside. So smaller production runs, margins, we just put it there so the margin was good, and we made it to do it. The automobile industry now, the big star is electric cars. I think government came and kind of overstepped their bounds a little bit by saying by X number of years, we're going to be all electric, and we mandate it. Well, that's not the American way.
Right.
We get the freedom to choose.
Correct.
It's just like I get the freedom to choose whether I serve the prince of this world or my Lord in heaven today. I choose that.
Sure.
And that's and my God gave me that freedom. So why shouldn't the government do it? We just recently, SEMA just convinced the administration, federal administration, to get rid of the EV mandates in California, overrode them out. Doesn't mean we're getting rid of electric cars. Doesn't mean we don't believe in electric cars.
Right.
I just rode an electric motorcycle that my little daughter bought last night. She bought it before, but I rode it last night, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. You can get in a S model Tesla and do better than any performance car anywhere, and it'll talk to you, and it'll even make funny sounds, but we don't have the infrastructure for it yet.
Yeah.
And so that needs to be built by the demand, by the market, and and we've had some the OEs, Ford, General Motors, all the guys have created this brick wall to keep people from changing their car, and to even try to pass laws. Well, horse hockey.
Yeah.
Let these guys, entrepreneurial guys, come up with it. I used to say when I was chairman of SEMA, we are a $70 billion industry with 7,000 member businesses. We have the largest trade show in Las Vegas, probably the largest corporate event that existed for business to business. I know it was the very first industry thing that went back to business in 2011 when 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
All this stuff goes on.
Yeah.
People are clamoring to buy it, and you know what that stuff is? Something nobody needs.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You don't need it, but
Yeah.
they're just dying to have it. So why is that? The tire industry is developing, it's turned into a service industry. All the auto dealers are now selling tires, and they sell them at a discount lower than what the local John Q public shop is.
Yeah.
And all the China's coming in, sprinting to the bottom, lower margins, lesser quality, and they're just gobbling each other up.
Yeah.
I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
In my history, of course, I had a decent margin. I had a niche also, and I had a bunch of molds. It was hard for anybody to come in and compete against me. So, but I got a decent margin. I didn't run any sales, but I overkilled them with service.
Service, yeah. Take care of the customer.
Yep.
So I know those early years, I don't remember specifically, but a lot of times SEMA would have a headliner or something for the gala dinner and so on. And Jay Leno, it seemed like, was booked a lot of times.
He's a good friend of mine.
I was just going to say, my guess is, right, those may have coincided with some of the years when you were at the helm. And so, obviously he's known for not only his TV appearance or talk show, but also for his car collection.
He's a real car guy.
He's a real car guy, right? And then
he knows his stuff too.
Jerry Seinfeld, right? Has got some cars, and
he doesn't like water-cooled cars though.
Okay.
He likes Porsches.
I was going to say
he's a big Porsche
definitely
guy.
is a Porsche guy, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And then I think I appreciate and like, especially being in here, I think on one of your podcasts you mentioned about it might have been the one with the bus, which caught my eye, right? Just driving on the highway, people see it, it brings, joy to them, right? Smile, they wave, whatever. And so I probably fall more into that category than being able to tell you, some of the stats and so on. But this is a pretty cool car collection. I mean, it's got to be up there, right, with some of the more iconic car collections, I would assume. I don't know. I don't know if there's.
I don't know how you rate them. It's a vast variety,
And I say cars, we got probably
got
more
motorcycles, got airplanes.
Yeah.
This yellow and blue airplane I bought so I'd hang it at my ceiling. Well, it flew, and the guy brought it down here on a car trailer, took the wings off, and to pull it on the trailer underneath the deal and underneath the plane itself. So he came in, he put the wings on it and said, "Do you want to hear it run before we drain the motor oil and fog it?" Is what they do. Well, I said, yeah. So he prop starts it, and I said, oh, this is just too good. So I said, hold on just a minute. So I sent my two guys. I had two rollbacks at the time. I sent my two guys and blocked the streets on this block here. And I said, okay, tell me about it. Anything I should know. And he said, don't give it too much throttle because it'll just end over with you.
Oh, gotcha.
It lands like a basketball, but it's very powerful. Anyway, so I taxied that thing around the block, and somebody put it on YouTube, and so I'm known to do things, crazy stuff, and have fun doing this stuff, and going yeehaw, burning rubber, and all that sort of stuff. So, fun stories. I could tell you a story about every single vehicle, every single sign in here.
Yeah.
See this Ford tractor, and I bought those from Mikey Wolf and Frank Fritz on American Pickers.
Okay.
And they were here. I used to buy motorcycles unrestored from Mike Wolf. Mikey's a good friend. He's a knucklehead. That's not a motorcycle engine. That is the kind of guy he is, like me. And so until he got to the place that he was very successful with the show, it's after about the 4th or 5th season. I think he's on like 14 or 15 now. And he quit calling me and say, hey, I've got this. And he said, well, I'm keeping them. I said, well, you have gotten too big for your britches.
Yeah.
So anyway, he sold a bunch of his bikes, and he called me back and he said, are you willing to sell me any of your early bikes? And I said, I want to remind you, 10 years ago, you said you were wanting to keep them. I said, go away, Mike.
Yeah. Well, on that note, and I'll wrap up here. You've been very generous with your time. I sincerely appreciate it. The barn finds, and I know you've got the Corky Coker's
Honest Charlie's Garage,
right?
On YouTube,
and also, I got to put the notes on here. Oh no, did I not write it down?
It's on Haggerty.
On Haggerty
and
channel.
on Samsung TV.
Which so Samsung TV and
you get free license to go on Samsung TV if you go buy one. It comes up on your screen. You can go and do lots of shows. And
you're the only person who can explain that, because every TV now is a smart TV.
Yeah.
And of course, I grew up watching channels 3, 6, and 10. I grew up in the Philadelphia market.
3, 9, and 12 in Chattanooga.
Okay, so and that was the NBC, ABC, and CBS affiliate.
You remember seeing the blink at about 12, 15 or something? It'd go boop, and then it go. You do the Star Spangled Banner, and then
Correct.
It goes boop.
Snow.
Yeah, snow.
You just have snow. Yeah.
Well, what Samsung TV realized is they're going to buy this smart TV. We've got smart televisions all over our house.
Yeah.
There's just dumb people live there. So.
And they may never have quote unquote cable.
Yeah, may never have. But,
right.
If you get internet.
Right.
It's streaming.
Correct.
Lots of stuff on there.
Right.
And Honest Charlie Garage, we've got, I think, 13 episodes on it right now. And there's some real good stories about this young lady with this 150S Jaguar.
Yeah.
She called here and said, hey, I've got this old car. Corky Coker goes down there and looks at it. This girl was savvy. She wet it down before I came in because it would shine. And I said, I'm going to watch you. It's going to be hard to buy this from you. Anyway, she got teary-eyed. It was about 3 or 4 months after Cameron passed. She got teary-eyed when I mentioned that because she had lost a son. Anyway, she came here. We negotiated price. She came here, and I told her that I'm going to restore this car, and I'm going to pay tribute to you. I'm going to pay tribute to my son, and it will show it. So, this Miss Jan right here, this little car. I actually, when I paid her for the car, she told me a little story about her other son that had a bad wreck, hit a tree also, and didn't have a scratch. She was crying and say, explain to me how that happens, why God allows that to happen.
Yeah.
And, I explained it to her. I said, God has a plan for me. He's using my grief, and I get to share that. And so I said, would you like to pray to receive Jesus right now? And she said, yes, I would. So this little car right here, and my willingness to use that in my life.
Yeah.
Because of losing my son, I'll see her in heaven.
Yeah.
And now she has stage 4 brain cancer, and we took her for a ride. Casey took her for a drive in it, and those are fun stories that I get to tell.
And was not operational, right?
No,
I think that
it'd been in the barn since 1985.
Was that episode 1?
It starts in episode 1.
I think, and I saw that where, again, to your point, right, barn find.
Yeah.
Right. Somebody puts it in maybe with the intent of working on it later or restoring it or doing something, and next thing you know.
Yeah, it's been 40, 50 years.
Or
Sometimes they take them apart and they can't put them back, figure out how to put them back together, and we do that. And I just picked up a 1953 Cadillac convertible.
Yeah.
Beautiful restored car. This guy flew on Air America. That was the most shot at airplanes and airline in the world.
Gotcha.
Around the Vietnam War era deal.
Gotcha.
And this guy's 94. He was a decorated pilot, flew, all the top brass around. His story is amazing, but he's got Parkinson's, I believe. And I just said, look, love to have your car, love to be able to share your story. And we're about to film him, and I don't know how well we'll do with that because he has trouble speaking sometimes.
Yeah.
But, people are the best people in the world. The cars speak, the stories speak, and I love doing that.
Yeah.
It's what I do now. I don't know if I'll be able to wedge in another tire business in the future, but
sure.
If I do, I do, and if I don't, I'll have fun doing what I do.
Well, I will close on something that, again, I'm hoping, right, you haven't been asked yet, which is not a whole heck of a lot, but we are in Hamilton County.
Yes, sir.
Named after Alexander Hamilton.
Yes, sir.
So I don't know if you like show tunes at all or not, but have you seen Hamilton?
I have not seen the play.
Okay.
But I understand it's absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
And the voices and the songs and the music is just fantastic.
It really is. And so I was introduced to it because my middle daughter was right listening to the soundtrack first, right? And then of course came this big hit, and then I don't know, Apple TV or one of the streaming services. But then we actually saw it in New York City as well. And again, and I grew up in with that era where kind of the early years of the hip hop and so on. So but to me it's just inventive and creative for somebody to have taken. There's musicals and there's plays, and then
I think music makes our brain work
absolutely
better, and we are congruent with other people. I can tell you that I'm very musical. Yeah. I play a 5-string banjo.
Well, I was just going to ask. You mentioned picking a couple of times.
My father played a 5-string. My brother did. I actually moved to a guitar so that my brother could play the banjo. We had a nice little bluegrass band, and I've gotten busy over the last 30 years, but what I will say is I asked my friend Audie Blaylock to write a song for the theme for our Barn Find show, and he did, and he got a Grammy for it.
That's great.
Yeah, and in fact, I can tell you that bluegrass is a part of me.
Yeah,
I love bluegrass, and this song is "Have You Found What You've Been Looking For?" 'Cause the road it always winds. And what I can tell you is that through the tire business, through my relationship with friends, through my relationship with Jesus Christ, through my son passing and going to heaven, beating me to heaven, but I'll see him soon, but not yet.
Yeah.
I have found what I've been looking for.
Yeah.
I have found success, I have found joy, and I've found peace. And a little bit of profit in between. Thanks for all the business from you tire dealers out there. And, because of that, my grandkids will eat tomorrow.
I love it. That's fantastic. All right. Well, listen, I sincerely thank you for your time. This has been a privilege for me. Like I said, I said I would do it. We did the first year. I said I'll do one more year. So we're winding down just a handful of episodes. But when I pulled out of the hotel and saw Coker Museum maybe 3 years ago, and then I kind of had the idea for the podcast, I said, we've got to get Mr. Coker on here. So
well,
I
thank
sincerely
you. And you
appreciate
did my name pretty well. It's a tongue twister when you say Corky Coker.
Well,
You have a Corky Corker, whatever.
There was an old Saturday Night Live skit where it was a Martin Short character, but it was the Jackie Rogers Jr. $100,000 jackpot wad or something. It was a real tongue twister.
Yeah.
So as I was doing, I had to do it a little slower to make sure that I got it correct.
Yeah,
so
it's kind of like that skit on Saturday Night Live that said, "Yeah, you can come right on down here to King of Prussia Mall, King of Prussia, PA."
That's it.
Yeah.
I went to the King of Prussia Mall growing up.
Me too. Yeah.
I grew
so
up,
you're originally from Pennsylvania?
Wilmington, Delaware, but a mile from the PA state line. We would shop at the farmers market in Pennsylvania.
There's some good fishing off the coast of Delaware down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
good.
awesome.
Thanks for coming.
Thank
we
you,
love
sincerely.
having you. Coker Museum. You know where the for the television show is. Coker Museum is at Honest Charlie Speed Shop, 1309 Chestnut Street, and it's cokermuseum.org.com.
CokerMuseum.com and available for events. I saw it look like wedding receptions. I mean, it is
bar mitzvahs, celebrations, bluegrass festivals,
everything,
all kinds of stuff.
Everything. My buddy Brett is my bluegrass connection, and literally 3-4 days ago I said, "Did you see I sent that?" And sometimes I struggle with sleep. And I was on Facebook Marketplace, and somebody had a mandolin they were selling for $50. And I said, "I don't know much about mandolins, but I said I think
you gotta
even
have
it for $50." And he goes, "I looked, it was already sold." I said, "Well, yeah, $50, man. You can't even buy a starter." I'm trying to learn to play guitar, but anyway, it's a whole nother story. We don't have time for that. So.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'll do my podcast about interesting tire guys that did something else. And so when you get famous playing the guitar and
I will reach out to you.
Yeah, I'll come and do a podcast about you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, and we'll see you next time on As the Tire Turns. That's a wrap for As the Tire Turns. Thanks so much for watching this episode as well as your support throughout the series.